I'm Tyler Sigman, co-founder of Red Hook Studios.
Tyler, what are you showing here new with Darkest Dungeon?
Today, or this weekend, we've been showing Darkest Dungeon for the first time, working on PlayStation 4 with controllers.
So what are some of the challenges when taking your PC game that's already working pretty well and moving it to a console platform?
I think for us, controls is probably the biggest challenge, because we're not a game that's like, technologically breaking down barriers or things like that. So really it's all about the gameplay. And so just adapting from, the mouse and keyboard interface into a controller interface is obviously kind of the biggest thing. And then also a little bit of the user interface aspect of, meant to be played from a couch, comfortable watching on a big screen TV, as opposed to hunched in front of your keyboard, something like that.
Did you have to sacrifice any things gameplay-wise, frame rate, graphics, textures, moving to the PlayStation 4?
No, not so far, and I don't think we will. I mean, the hardware's great on the PS4, and I think it's adequate, to work on Vita as well. And so no, our game is the way it's built. It shouldn't really be challenging all that too much. So
talk about this whole process from starting to a Kickstarter to now. How does it feel to see your game grow so much, so quickly, so fast, and then, well, probably not fast on your end, but and just get this whole community behind it so fast and to grow so rapidly?
Yeah, it's been an amazing ride. I think Chris and I sometimes have to sort of pinch ourselves. Chris Bross is the other co-founder of the company, and we sometimes just have to pinch ourselves and remember, we remember sitting in his room just talking about the game and there was nothing, and then now to where it is today, and there's a lot of people playing it, and we're coming out of multiple platforms. So, I think, but we also understand the work it took to get there every step of the way, so it doesn't feel like an overnight thing. We're just really grateful that people are enjoying the game. We have a lot of work left to do to finish strong and figure out all the things to make it work as well as we want it to work on PlayStation, and that's really our focus. So I think when you're focused on that, it kind of you don't have a ton of time to reflect on, just how you got there.
So what if things like Kickstarter you think opened up for game developers such as yourself in crowdfunding?
It's an amazing time to be an independent developer. There's a lot of talk right now about things like the indie apocalypse because there's so many developers, but I think the basic thing is that this confluence of business models, this convergence of business models really is amazing, like crowdfunding, digital distribution, where you can be your own publisher. And I mean, we're so grateful to Kickstarter platform for, basically that allowed us to make this game. And so, we've got to meet more of our backers here at the show. Our top tier backer showed up. We met him for the first time. He's the guy that designed the Abomination class, which just came out in the game. And, it's a really cool time to be a developer for that reason. So I think that that people like to over publicize, say, some of the failures on those platforms or Kickstarter or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's allowing people to make stuff that wouldn't get made otherwise. And, we're living proof. So we love it. We're grateful.
So with crowdfunding and early access and such, you guys are able to fund the game through fans and through a community, rather than the traditional way through an investor, because with an investor you usually have hard deadlines you have to meet for a release date. Since you guys kind of can go at your own pace, when do you guys know when to stop and be like, okay, this is the game, it's done, we're going to finish this and then add this stuff later?
Yeah, I mean, those things take discipline. I think that like in a traditional relationship with a publisher, it's kind of helpful. It's like your parents telling you to do your chores sometimes. You're like, I don't want to clean my room, but they're kind of right. It's a mess, And in this case, I think it helps that, we've been in the industry a while, led a bunch of projects, have an idea of seeing some projects get out of hand. And so, there's an internal tension of trying to put as many wonderful things in the game as possible, while also at some point drawing a line in the sand and saying it's done. And it's not like a simple equation, but I think that we spend a lot of time talking about those things and making sure that we honor our commitments to the backers, etc. And ultimately, we want the game to stand on its own. And so we have sort of task lists and things that we continually juggle features, and we'll say, hey, is this thing really vital for the core experience? And we've had some features kind of go off that, come back, go off, come back. So it's an organic process that happens over time. And being independent, being self-funded in that way, meaning crowdfunded, not investor, it gives you that flexibility to change your plan. And I think that's a huge plus, because when you have to make a plan at the very beginning of a project, and then 24 months later, like everything's invalidated, but you're sticking to that original plan. That's bad. So the biggest thing it's given us is flexibility. If something is taking longer, we can cut something else out. If something finishes faster, we can add more in.
You guys are gearing up for your final release in January. How do you feel about it? Positive? Do you feel crazy?
I mean, definitely crazy. There's a lot to do. I think right now it's just a matter of don't have a lot of time to reflect, just got to get through the tasks. But no, we're excited. I mean, we've been working on the game a while. We're super excited to finally work on these things that we've been talking about a long time, like the darkest dungeon itself. So I know Chris has been working on the end cinematics, drawing the final bosses, and it's great to actually be doing that, because it was theoretical for so long. When we get to the darkest dungeon, we're going to do this, and all of a sudden we're doing it. So that feels really good. I think there's a little bit of nerves of you always want it to be received well, but that's a healthy part of creative development, I think. So we're jazzed, yeah.
I know you guys are really busy trying to get the release out and all that stuff, but what are your plans post-release for Darkest Dungeon? Sequel, new game, DLC?
Oh man, well, we kind of have this standing rule, which is we almost don't talk about it ourselves, but I mean, I think that we're going to do some free updates to the game for sure. There's some Kickstarter stretch goals that won't be in right at launch that we're going to bring in. It's an RPG, so obviously doing some expansions, whether those are paid or free, make perfect sense. We want to do that. And yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that the market's shown us is that there's an appetite for Darkest Dungeon. And so, in the form of expansions, sequels, whatever, we feel like it's becoming a franchise, and we'd like to see it kind of reach other mediums, whether that's board games, graphic novels, things like that. But honestly, right now, that's all kind of dreamland for us, and we're just focused on, all those plans get easier if we can just finish this game strong, and so that's our number one priority.
Speaking of graphic novels and stuff, have you guys considered doing merchandising, T-shirts? I've heard people on your forums beg for action figures.
Yes, it's definitely something we want to do. We will do it. I mean, really, not to be coy about it. It's just, we want to do it ourselves and be involved in it. And so we actually have some Redbubble fan art that you can go buy, fan art T-shirts right now. But we'll be doing some of our official merch as well. And yeah, I mean, figurines will be awesome. So I think it'll happen. It's just a matter of when.
Did you guys ever, so while you were designing the game, did you ever once think it would get this kind of major reception?
I don't think so. I think we wanted it to be successful, obviously. We're all a bit older, so we need to make a living off of it. So we're trying to make sure that we were making a game that could sell to people. But, I think that, it's been beyond our, maybe not beyond all hopes, but certainly beyond what we expected. And we're really grateful for that. We feel a lot of obligation to keep working hard, and we have been throughout early access, et cetera. And we're super jazzed bringing it to the PlayStation platform. We love Sony and what they're doing. Worked with them in the past, bunch of great people there. And, this show has been a great example of just enthusiasm of people for seeing product on a different device. So it's been fun to reach people that we haven't really seen or been able to reach with the game yet.
When does your game finally release?
On PlayStation, we're targeting the spring. So we don't have a firm date yet, but somewhere around April timeframe is what we're aiming for.